Hey guys, back again at the British Boutique Guitar Festival. I'm here with Lewis from LT Custom Guitars. And you might recognize this thing in the middle because this one appeared on the channel last year just after the show. But today Lewis is going to talk me through a couple of other models that we've got. So we've got three really cool guitars here today. So what have we, what am I holding? Let's start with this one.
You're holding the Resin River. Now, I just was not original with the name on this, so I just called it the Speciale because it sounds a little bit more exotic.
Yeah.
And so you can clearly see what it's based on. The whole idea though with the Resin River, be blingy, be different.
Yeah.
And this is different in its own way. It's 25-inch scale.
Okay.
It's got the wrap over intonatable bridge. The pickups are hand wound by Jake Parkhurst down in Southampton, who used matching covers. And yeah, flame maple neck that is stained to match the colour of the resin, and then the satin finished walnut covers for the cavities. Shallow hardware, ebony fingerboard that is about as black as you can get these days.
Yeah, that is pretty dark, isn't it?
And crazy paving inlay with a matching headstock veneer, and then the bound body finishes in the cutaway, which was the bane of my guitar making career so far, to try and get that right. Wouldn't have been a problem in wood had I finished that in wood, but me and my clever ideas, let's do a river horn because that'll look really cool, and then trying to like get the epoxy so smooth and get it, it was.
I can imagine resin's pretty hard to work with in like the way it's sort of textured, because I guess it doesn't sort of file down the same way that wood.
No, that's a really good point. So when I was chamfering the edges and working away on that, 4 or 5 strokes on the resin is the same as like 1 stroke on the wood. So as you're carving it down, I say this is carving a lot easier than that, and you take a step back, look at what you've done, and you're like, oh, okay, right, let's keep that in mind. Especially where it's going to meet the wood, but it does go all the way through. Those are 2 separate pieces of black walnut from the same tree that have a live edge to them that we can join with the resin, and then finished in the high gloss. But you can have any color, any woods. I do make them thinner to try and cut down on the weight, but they still come out around £9, just over that. You can't help that. You've got a big lump of plastic in the middle, unfortunately. So
because that's the thing that you notice instantly when you pick up a guitar with resin in, is that is a heavy guitar. Would you say that as a builder you've noticed any like tonal differences between an all wood guitar and a resin guitar?
Unplugged, I don't know if it's just me, because there are so many variables here. If I built the same guitar with a maple neck and an ebony board, walnut body, but without the resin, I think it probably would be brighter.
Right.
I think the resin does add some sort of warmth or lower frequencies to it. Whether I can scientifically prove that, or whether it's just something that my brain is telling me that's what should happen because walnut is quite bright, maple's quite bright. But they just sound warmer to me. Well, that could also be the fact that there's a couple pounds extra. The weight could definitely add to that. So that's what I mean. There's so many variables in it. I'd love to definitively say yes and no, but it's like you swap the pickups out and it's going to sound different. You put a different speaker in your speaker cab, it's going to sound different, isn't it? So
you can definitely tell when you play it unplugged. There's definitely a really sort of, there's a very present low end that you don't often get with guitars when they're unplugged. Usually when guitars are unplugged, you just hear all the top end. But on this, you can hear the low end. I don't know if that's going to come through properly on the microphone, but you can definitely hear it in the room. So let's hear what this thing sounds like then. Or was that a coil tap as well?
Yes.
Nice.
Completely forgot about that as well. There's a coil split.
There's nothing better than when you're playing a guitar and you find out that it's got a coil split. It's like a bonus feature, isn't it? What's the fretboard radius on this? It feels quite flat.
It's a 12.
Okay.
Yeah. I've experimented with different radiuses with the all-in-one bridge.
Yeah.
With very mixed results, because obviously the saddles on those bridges are radius themselves to typically 12, but there are some where you can get that are flatter and there are some that are slightly more. And I've tried to do a much more vintage radius with it before. You run into all sorts of difficulties. We won't say problems, but difficulties.
Yeah. Challenges.
Yes.
Challenges as a builder.
That's it. Trying to get sort of the radius of the strings to try and keep in with that, and to try and get a playable action, because I like to keep on the lower end of things with the action on the guitars. Yeah. It doesn't always work if you like in my experimentation there, like when the radius of the board was curvier than the radius. Yeah,
it's hard to get the action super low on a really vintage radius.
Yes.
Yeah, I always feel I can tell a big difference when I'm playing like a flatter radius guitar, because I lean more towards more of the pronounced curve on the fretboard with a high action. Yeah. So I'm one of those weird people that when I buy a new guitar, I raise the action.
Oh, okay.
It's the first thing I always do is like, right, that needs to come up. So as soon as I play a flat board, I'm like, the strings are really close.
Yeah, I sort of went the other way with it. Weirdly, I had my main guitar for years had a 7.25 rate. It was like a really old Strat.
Yeah.
And I loved it, but I don't know, at some point, I built myself something with a 16-inch radius, which is almost like a Spanish guitar. Like, could have just done that with a file over the sides. And whilst it's, if you're going to be doing like chords for any length of time, any sort of like that, it's not the most comfortable with little hands anyway. I feel like they get quite crampy. Yeah. But if I'm just noodling or doing lead work, stuff like that, then I find I'm a little bit more comfortable that way. But I still do enjoy, though, a nice curvy board for like standard playing as such. So
yeah, of course. Yeah, it does make a difference. But yeah, it feels great though. I love the neck on this. It's like the right blend between, it's thin enough that you could play fast on it, but it's thick enough that there's still a neck there.
I do get in trouble with someone for making necks too thin, which I was very guilty of very early on. And so I think people can adjust easier to a thicker neck. I don't want to generalize, but I think you can. I know I certainly did with Little Hand and a Les Paul, that baseball bat neck on it, in my teens. I was like, but it didn't give me any problems. Whereas actually with the thinner necks, I think especially too thin, again, me personally, I ran into sort of cramping issues or what felt like cramping issues in my hand. Almost like you're over tightening your hand when playing. I don't know if that's a thing.
That makes sense. It's all about just comfort, isn't it? It's finding the right sort of size and it fits. So what about this thing then? Because obviously we've spoke a little bit about your S types.
Yes. So this is one of my hardtail S types that I don't know if this was born from sheer frustration in the, being lefty, there's not many. I know this isn't a lefty, but me personally trying to buy a left-handed tremolo unit that's any good, you've got about 3 options. And also working on guitars for so long, the amount of people who would come through the workshop door and say, "Can you block my trem off for me?" It was a weekly occurrence. So I thought, well, why are so many people asking to have trems blocked off? Yeah, all right, they're maybe not that comfortable using a trem. If you're heavy with your hand, especially on a floating trem, it's a nightmare, isn't it? So I thought, let's just do something hardtail. I do these with a trem, but this just happens to be the hardtail option. I remember this one does have a coil split in the Alchemy pickups. Yeah. This is a little bit different in that it is a one-piece limber body. Okay. So it should sound warmer with more pronounced mids than mahogany on paper. Okay. I love a theory. Yeah, we love a theory, a tone-wood theory. Exactly. And then the neck is
that neck looks awesome.
Yeah, I didn't want like the River one. I didn't want it to be too in your face, flamey. So I went for a much more subtle figure in it. Yeah. And darkened it down. It's not baked. That's just a darkened.
Okay. I thought it was baked from the look of it.
Yeah, I do use a lot of baked maple necks because they work so well. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought I'd give it a bit of an antique-y look to sort of complement the color of the body. This again has a flatter 12-inch radius on it.
Yeah.
To keep it smart in the rosewood board, I put slightly undersized mother of pearl dots in. I think it's not a huge difference, but aesthetically, they just take up a little bit less room and I think look a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
That's a personal taste thing for me, though.
It's the sort of thing you wouldn't notice unless someone actually told you.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that they were slightly undersized, you'd never look at that and think, well, the dots are a bit off.
Well, exactly.
Some people might though. There might be some people out there.
Yeah. The other thing is the roundover on the edge of the body.
Oh, that's much more pronounced as well.
The forearm contour is the lower hand cut.
Oh, yeah. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so it's all these little things. A slight chamfer on the heel, just to add to comfort for all that upper fret stuff. But the actual roundover of the body is half the size of what it would usually be on this model. And what that does is it makes, like, if you find a full thickness like here, for instance, it makes that look a lot thicker. Yeah,
it does actually. Yeah,
it looks like a thicker body than what, but it's exactly the same. It's a standard thickness Strat or S-type body, but the roundover just makes it look chunky.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those little optical illusions. I've done thinner body. I've done thicker bodies and put the larger roundover on it, and it looks like you've given somebody a thinner body. Right. It's just an aesthetic thing. There is no, that's not going to change the lower mids in the wood. That is just purely aesthetics.
Yeah, it looks great. Should we plug that one in quickly then and have a quick listen before we wrap up? Of course, let's hear how this thing sounds then. So on the bridge pickup. I love that honky sound you get on like S-type guitars, especially when you have the in-between positions.
Yeah, so I sort of grew up listening to Not Flat. Early straights had sort of position 2. Yeah. And then I think the other one I'm a big fan of is Robert Cray. Right. Who I think spends a lot of time in 2 and 4. Yeah. And they've just got that really distinctive sound, haven't they? Like you say, that honk that I just love it. Yeah.
4 is one of my favourite positions, especially when you play with a slightly cleaner sound, because you do just get that.
It's almost, I used to call it like a bell-like.
Yeah, that's I hear that sort of turn of phrase a lot with that sound. I always just think of it as like the BB King thing. Yes. I always reference it against players rather than like descriptive
imaginary thing. Somebody walking around banging a bell, going, "Doesn't that sound like a
position?" But what does a bell sound like compared to a guitar? I just think of it in terms of like my favorite players and like a reference point.
I should start doing that. It's much better.
But yeah, I like this. That neck feels great. It almost has that kind of roasted feel, that real smoothness. Like anyone who's played a roasted maple neck will know how smooth they feel. Yeah. And that's really kind of got that vibe about it. Yeah, I like it. And it's very light as well.
Yeah, so I was not expecting the Limber to be quite as light as it was, especially being a one piece. Yeah. They do have a reputation for being slightly heavier. But it's we managed to get a thin polyurethane finish on that. So it didn't need loads of coats, which obviously can start adding to the weight as well. Yeah. Strats obviously have that big recess under the scratch plate as well. Yeah. But yeah, overall, I mean, using stuff like Polonia now, that is going to be like 3 pounds lighter than this. But I mean, that's like, it feels like toy stuff.
It's like air, isn't it? It's like making a guitar.
So, but that feels like a good pliable weight. Yeah.
You could do a long gig with that and you wouldn't sort of feel it on your back. Yeah. Whereas if you played with like a vintage S-type or that, I dread to think what that thing feels like it feels amazing, but I wouldn't want to stand up for 2 hours.
Yeah, I make no bones about it. You know about like the Pioneer and especially my other stuff. I try and make them light so they're playable. Yeah, this is very lightweight. Yeah, this is the other end of the spectrum. You're going to crack this out, but maybe not all night. It's
just for a few songs.
It's got a different use. We'll say that.
Cool. So yeah, thank you for talking me through the guitars. Obviously, everyone that's watching has seen this one already, but there's a link in the top corner for this video if you haven't already seen that one. This is the Pioneer P1. Where can people find out more about what you do if they want to?
They can head
Check
to
out the guitars.
Yeah, thanks. They can head to www.ltcustomguitars.co.uk and have a little play around because the P2 model will be out soon.
I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
There's a virtual P2 builder on the website, so you can like place the woods and all that and mess around with all the different options. So definitely head there and have some fun.
I'm going to go do that myself as well then. Cool. Well, thank you very much. Big thanks to Mike for once again pulling off the British Boutique Guitar Festival. It's going to be a great year. Don't forget to check out all the videos from all the other channels and all the brands at the festival as well. And don't forget to check out Lewis's guitars because these things are really cool. Go check out those links down below in the description and I will see you guys very soon. Thanks for watching.